Hello, my good friends. This is a different video here. Why would you listen? Why would you follow me if you know nothing about me? I just kind of popped up on YouTube. I just kind of popped up in your life, and I make these videos trying to help people and minister to people. But you know nothing about me. It doesn't give me any credibility or uncredibility that you don't know anything about me. I'm just like on a neutral ground here. So I kind of wanted to take this time just to kind of go over a few things that kind of give me a platform to stand on from where I'm coming from. And even ask yourself, why are you even doing this? Do you have credibility? And I will say that I don't have any. But Jesus gets all the credibility for what's been done in my life. I grew up in church, just like a lot of us have. As a child, going to many different churches, mostly, independent fundamental Baptist churches. And as kids do, we fall asleep in church. We barely listen in Sunday school, but I got the gospel handed to me at a very young age, even though I didn't accept it. And as most of us in our teenage years, we get a little wild. We tend to drink. We tend to smoke cigarettes or other things. And we tend to break all the rules. And what I did was all those things times 10. That's what I will say. If there was the bad kid on the block, I was worse than him. I mean, I was popular in school, but I was so bad in school. Maybe that's why I was so popular. Not popular anymore. I was bad. I was on the fastest road to hell that you could be on. It was like the peach lane for hellgoers. Alcohol has been a constant in my life. It's not been everything, but it has been a constant. At a young teenage age of my life, alcohol had always been around me. I had began to dabble in it. I had began to sneak beers out of my dad's cooler and try those out. I had been starting to, smoke cigarettes from people around me. I had tried some marijuana, wasn't a big fan, but drinking was my main thing, and listened to no one, just like most of us have. Just mind you, I was going at a faster pace, a very fast pace. I got my first DUI when I was 16 years old. My papa had gave me some gas money. He gave me some money to put windshield wiper blades on my truck. And instead of doing that, we went and bought beer. And then after we ran out of beer, we ran to the QT and stole some beer. And then after that, it started to rain, and me being intoxicated and without windshield wipers, I wrecked my truck that night. And 16 years old, got my first DUI. So I have a little bit something to talk about here. So, being as bad as I was, being as fast tracked to hell as I was, I mean, it was one. If I would have kept on that route, there's no way I would have been dead. There's just no way around it. I watched something one time around this age that kind of opened my eyes to the spiritual world. I actually watched something about exorcisms. And unintentionally, I tapped into something that caused me great harm, showed me things that I didn't know were real. Now, don't get crazy on me thinking, oh, here he goes talking about some stuff that I don't believe in. I don't care if you believe in it or not. I'm just telling you what happened, okay? And if you don't like it, then just don't watch the video. I'm just telling you my testimony, the story of my life, and where I am and how I got to where I am today. So, after I watched this and kept on going about my day, and days thereafter, things began a little bit different to me. I would start to hear things. I would start to really think about death, go to bed at night thinking about death, almost like I was hearing voices in my head saying things to me. I could look at stuff in the closet, and it would basically all just come together and make a shape or a form that was very scary and demonic to me. It caused me to get very little sleep, and the only peace that I found as an unsaved Christian in all this mess that I was in was when I read the Bible, because I knew what it was, having been grown up in church. And then at this time I was pretty heavy. I was drinking. I had even tried some ecstasy. I had a kid on the way. I was spiraling down quick. And so after all of this stuff, this little light that I had seen into the spiritual world that is around us, that you do not want to get in contact with. I think people like Kat Von D and stuff like that have kind of talked about this as well, and her testimony. It really scared me, and the only peace that I could find was in God's Word. And so I started to attend church at a church that my grandmother had went to, and she had already passed, but I started to go to that church a little bit there, and got in there, and it allowed more peace. And the pastor of that church, great man of God, really took me under his wing, and was really a good friend to me. And I went to that church for a few weeks, and then after that, I caught him on a Monday. He met me down at the church January 7th, 2013, and he helped me. He led me to the Lord, and I walked out of that building. The sky was bluer, everything was prettier. I had a weight that was on me that had been lifted. I'd heard a verse in a dream. I don't care if you believe it or not. In a dream, before I even knew the verse, in one of the dreams that I had before I got saved, it was John 14:6, and it says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one cometh unto the Father but by me." And then as I was leaving that church, heading to the DMV, I passed a billboard that I'd never seen before. It had John 14:6 on it. So there's your confirmation from God. Now, if you think that is the end of my testimony, you are mistaken. That is the beginning of my testimony. It gets worse before it gets better. So I was saved. I was in church. I was learning the Bible. I was under the wing of a great pastor. I was soaking up just as much as I could get, and everything that came from a man with a white shirt on and a red or black tie with the name Baptist behind it, I was believing it as if God said it himself. Not to hate on any specific pastor. I'm just saying there are many of them out there, and not all of them are correct. And I got so wrapped up, and I changed so much so quick because God was cleaning me up. He was getting rid of the sin and the things that didn't fit anymore in my life. And at the same time, I was taking on things that weren't even biblical. In my head, I was, at least. Never really voiced these things out. Didn't want to discourage anybody to think they messed me up in my walk. Nobody did that. And I was on the doorsteps of seminary school. I had thought I had been called to preach, I was taking on and learning so much and pushed, it seemed like, in my head in all these different kind of directions. I basically came to a pressure point of breaking. As a young Christian, I was getting things mixed up, getting man-made things mixed up with biblical things and what God's plan was for me in my life. And I took a step back from it. And I love the song, I forget who sings it, maybe Casting Crowns. It's a slow fade. Because it was a slow fade for me. It began with a little bit of church, just kind of being there but not really being there. And then it became where I would miss service. And then it became where I quit tithing. And it just became more and more. And looking back now, man, I remember feeling like the wrath of God was going to come down on me for walking away the way that I did. And it's funny how he works, I'll say that. But after my backslidden state here, I meet what is now my wife, who didn't know anything about me, did not know anything of this that I'm telling you right now at this point. She just thought I was Hunter, and I worked at the same place that she did in a different department, and we just kind of hit it off. And we kind of rocked on like that. Ended up 6 months later. 6 months later, we've been together 10 years now. Getting married, child on the way, and so begins my drinking again. And it's funny how anybody who's ever spent any time of their life of being addicted to anything, but especially alcohol, how you slowly build up your tolerance, and what was a lot is now a little. So I could buy a 30 pack of, at the time, Bud Light. Man, it would last me a month. You know, we were on a tight budget. I was working and she was in school, and we lived off a credit card for years. So every dollar we could save, it was good at the time that my drinking wasn't so bad. I couldn't handle enough because I couldn't be able to afford it anyway. And so as I started on that, my drinking just slowly became more and more. It was a weekend thing, 6 beers, drunk, done, turning into, well, I'm going to have one on a Tuesday night to kind of like break up the week. And I moderated that for a very long time until I didn't. And then it became where a 30 pack lasts you 2 weeks, 30 pack lasts you a week. We're talking years now. We're not talking months of just drinking, and then making bad life decisions, just totally away from God at this point. Now, yeah, at this point in my life, I wasn't even really doing a Bible study. I was praying every day. Really just scared to death for my life, but I guess alcohol made it kind of blur back in my head, and I would be okay for a little while longer. But you know, I as time went on and my family grew, I was a horrible father and a horrible husband. I mean, I was not faithful to my wife. I was not around for my kids. If I was home, we were partying. We had people over. We were cooking out. We were smoking Boston butts. We were drinking beer all day. We were on the boat. You know, I wasn't one of those alcoholics where I didn't have anything and I was asking you for $10. I had everything I needed, everything I wanted. I lacked for nothing. And if I didn't have the money, I was going to get it, because I'm just a determined person like that. It doesn't have to be a faulted person, in the system kind of downtrodden person to make mistakes. I made them with money and willingly did so. Spent all my money on it, but still had more. I wasn't broke. It didn't break me financially. We went on, and but the drinking became more and more and more, and I got in more and more trouble, and I got, somehow in all this, I had felt like I had found the real Christian, like the people that maybe weren't in church, but they have a relationship with God, and you know, they wouldn't fit in at the church, but they are still God's people in just a different part of the land. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I think you get what I'm trying to say. So I kind of justified my drinking for a long time. I mean, like I said, not faithful to my wife. It's a wonder we made it. It really is. Not around for my kids. Hard worker though, still hard worker, still a heavy drinker. Bars, I drug her out to bars. What do you call those things? Casinos, concerts, everything I did had to have a beer in it. Boat, was not going on the lake sober. And then somewhere along the way, I guess just knowing right from wrong, I did start to dabble a little bit back into my Bible. And if you've listened to my other videos, in the full video, not just what you wanted to hear from the beginning and then commented like some people do, but the full video, you know, I did keep up a good Bible study. I did keep up some music. I just wasn't like a completely unplugged for the entire time. I learned a lot of what I call in the desert of my life, where God was taking me. Because see, I walked away from Him, but God never walked away from me. And I'll get to that more in a minute. And so the drinking got so bad, man, I could do 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 beers a day. Fine. I mean, get off of work, start putting them down. Wake up in the morning, not hungover in the slightest, throw on some work clothes, go do it again. I was wicked. I was becoming my father. And so something happened in me and my wife's relationship years later. We're getting, towards the end over here now. And I didn't think we were going to make it, but I cried out to God, and I stopped drinking for a good 6 months. I don't think we started going back. We went to church a little bit, I do believe, and we started doing Bible studies. I mean, we started living right. It got my attention. That's what the Lord was trying to do. This was step one of trying to get my attention. And he did. And I straightened up a lot. I remember praying and praying so hard for God to save my marriage, and that I had made a mess of something that he never intended. He never intended all this havoc that I had caused myself as a saved Christian. And I cried out to God to save my marriage, and he did. And then I prayed just as hard. We were shortly after expecting another child, and I prayed. I have 3 boys. I prayed so hard, night after night after night, for a little girl, and I have a little girl now. So that's not the end. I straightened up, and I never went fully back to where I was. God had brought me a step up, and I had took a half a step back later on again. Now, at this time, I am fully in God's Word. I am reading books like as fast as you can print them. I'm reading them. I'm studying. I'm learning. I understand. I'm ministering. If somebody reached out to me with something spiritual, I'm there, because preaching, I thought, was my calling. And I don't think preaching was my calling. I think ministry. Well, I know now for sure, hands down, ministry is my calling. And that's what I'm going to do, whether somebody says this or that, or wait, or, whatever God spoke to me. I know what my calling is, and that's what I'm going to do. I do appreciate opinions and advices, but God is the one leading me here. And just as he is leading you, if God's told you to do something, somebody else tells you not to do it, you take it up with God. You don't got to take it up with somebody else. So I took a half a step back, and I remember one night, I was drinking pretty heavily again, but still fully in my Bible studies, fully in the Word, and so much that it was the one part of me and the good part of me were coming together, but they would not merge. They were just hitting head on every afternoon, and it was a fight. It was a spiritual fight in my body. And I remember one night just crying to my wife, just saying, I don't want to do this again. God has got something for me, and I don't want to miss it. And I'm fully aware that if you're just living life with no purpose, what is the point? What is the point? We were made to glorify God. Everyone was made as a human, a creature, God's being, to glorify God. And if that's not what you're doing, then you're lost in sin. And if you're a saved Christian and you're not glorifying God, if you're not walking in his will, you need to get it right, because you're wasting time and people around you are going to hell. And God's put you here so that through you, he can minister to them. I cried out to God, Lord, I don't want to return down this road. It's an addiction. I need your help. And, man, I tell you what, the next day, just feeling like, I felt like crap the next day. I was going so heavy because I knew I wanted to do better, but I just couldn't do it, and it made it that much worse. I was just going so much harder with drinking. There was no cutoff. If it was here in the house, it was going down. It was making me numb. Let me worry about this tomorrow. I'll straighten up I'll enjoy this today or whatever, and I'll do it tomorrow. It's what we always say, right? Tomorrow. We'll start fresh tomorrow. The next day, I thought that I had had a heart attack. I felt some pains in my chest and in everywhere that I've never felt before. And it took me out of work for a little while. Made me run myself to the doctor 4 or 5 different times. And I remember when that happened, I told the Lord, God, you get me out of this one. You get me out of this one, and I'll quit playing games, and I'll serve you, and I'll never touch it again. And here I am. I'm not dead, and I haven't touched it, just so you know. But I just remember that happening, and I went to the doctor so many times. They said, "There's nothing wrong with you." I said, I had a heart attack. I'm telling you, doc, I had a heart attack. And he put me on the EKG. I didn't have no heart attack. I had some kind of acid indigestion, stomach ulcer, something with some crazy anxiety that was making it way worse than what it was. And we got it figured out, and ever since then I haven't had a problem with it. But you see, for a good bit of time of my saved Christian life, I spent it doing what I wanted to do. I walked away from God, but God didn't walk away from me. It is crazy, His love for you. Some of the people that I know in my life only know me as one way, and now that Jesus Christ is shining back through me again, it's just not the same. People don't look at you the same. I think they're watching you, waiting for you to fail, waiting for you to fall. It changes everything. It changes everything for you, but it changes everything around you as well. And so here I am. God's fixed me. I have I'm a reformer in the sense that I run everything back by the Bible. I don't take man's word for it anymore. I match it up myself. I think it's been such a saving thing for me to keep me sane, because if you listen to everything somebody tells you, you're going to get confused. You need to run something. That's why I always say in my videos, run it back by the Bible. That's how important it is to me. It's because if God's doing something in my life, I want Him to tell me. I want Him to show me. I don't want somebody else to tell me that He's doing it for me, because why would He tell you and not me? There's been some very clear things that God has said to me in my life, and I can just tell them to you off the top of my head because they stand out that much, because I know they're that important, and that's what He did. I know I'm called to ministry. This YouTube channel, TikTok's doing great, just so you know, but YouTube's just a different playing field. This video probably get like 5 views. I don't care. I'm here. Why am I here? Because I have a heart for people. I have lived such a crazy life that I'm telling you that Jesus fixed it. He saved me, and after all my running, He was there to take me back and get me back on track. And says, all right, now you ran off course, but you gotta understand, running off course, God still knew your course. It's not, it was predestined in that sense that He knew it was going to happen. But man, to have things figured out now, to have a sense of clarity, to be in a better spot, and I'm just full of just what God has for me. My heart breaks for people. I understand the sensitivity of time. We don't have it. People don't have it. Wasting time like I did. Just wasting time. But God has sure enough shown faithful and showed up in my life and has put me here, has put me other places, just trying to minister and help people where I can. I'm going to keep doing it. This channel may not ever go anywhere. Doesn't matter. God's going to do what he wants to do with it. This is just my story of what he did in my life. I could not have done, the only thing I could have done in my life was what I was doing. Keep drinking, keep being unfaithful, keep messing up everything, keep wrecking trucks, keep getting DUIs, not serving them. Where I am today is solely because of Jesus Christ and his saving power and his redeeming blood. So I hope this kind of gives you a little bit of backfill on me, on my life, on my testimony. I mean, I could tell you more and more and more. There's always more to tell, but it wouldn't fit in this video. I mean, I'd have to really sit down with you, and hey, maybe one day we could. But I hope this helps somebody. God is faithful even when you're not, but he brings you back to a point. He clears you up. He dusts you off. He sets you back on good, solid ground, and you go again, and you go hard, and you don't give up this time. Praying for y'all out there.